guys, so today I wanted to do a little bit of a chatty video. If you guys follow me on Periscope and Twitter, you probably know that this topic has been massively on my mind lately. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about brand trips, PR, disclosure, sponsorships, codes, all that good stuff. Before we jump into this video, I just want you guys to know that first of all, everything that I'll be talking about is based off my own experiences that I've had working with the brands that I work with, and everything should be taken with a grain of salt. Every single brand operates differently, every single influencer operates differently, so it's really hard to be able to tell indefinitely 100% whether or not something was paid, sponsored, whatever it may be. So I'm going to tell you guys as much as I can about all this kind of stuff, and hopefully you guys can just take that and, you know a little bit more about my industry. I'll also make sure to put timestamps down in the description bar if you guys aren't really interested about one part but you want to learn about something else. I'll have everything down below. So the first thing I thought we should talk about is PR, and what I mean by PR is public relations. This is essentially, a lot of influencers will get free product, all that kind of good stuff. So one big question that a lot of you are asking me on Twitter is, in your experience, do you typically see people getting on PR lists because of their talent or because of their popularity? Both. There's some people that are quite small accounts that end up getting on PR lists just because they're talented, maybe they fit the brand's image, and there's other people that are massive accounts that don't go on the brand's PR for a variety of reasons, but ultimately, yes, both. Obviously, having numbers behind you is helpful. Someone's asking, if you are affiliated with a brand, are there any negative consequences to being honest when you like a product? This is something that's been kind of a topic of discussion, and there's been so many rumors going around lately about people being taken off PR lists for different reasons. This does happen every now and again. Honestly, it's pretty rare in my opinion. Typically speaking, a brand wouldn't just take you off their PR list because you were speaking negatively about a product or maybe you didn't like one, because the negative PR that they would receive from taking you off the list would probably far outweigh the fact that you said that you don't like a product for a particular reason. And this is something that a lot of people have speculation about. They think that if you are on a PR list for a brand that you will never say anything negative about them. If you go on trips with them, that you'll never say anything negative about them. Honestly, there are a few influencers that follow that kind of mentality, but for the most part, most of us don't care. As bratty as it sounds, you guys have to realize that we receive a multitude of packages every single week from a multitude of brands. So something as simple as being sent free product isn't going to be enough to sway most people to talk positively about a product. A lot of people also wonder if you absolutely have to post about something if you're sent it out. Typically when you're starting out and you're a smaller influencer, I know myself, I received a ton of emails of people saying that they wouldn't send out the product unless you absolutely posted about it, which is complete bullshit. So a lot of smaller influencers are kind of pressured into posting about it, but you absolutely do not have any obligation to post unless otherwise explicitly stated by the brand. Usually brands just send out product for your consideration so that you guys can post about it if you want to. People usually end up talking about product because you guys are asking for our opinions on it. So whether it's just an unboxing, whether it's putting in a review video, whether it's putting in a favorites video, first impressions, whatever it may be, usually the followers are asking for it, so we do end up including the product in some format across our social platforms. Somebody was asking how you get on PR lists and how they can possibly get on a PR list. If you're an influencer or if you're just curious and you want to know how people typically get chosen to be on PR lists, honestly, the best thing that you can do in my opinion is genuinely love the brand. If it's a brand that you love, you use regularly, tag them. Make sure that you're using brand specific hashtags, so you can usually find that on their page, whether it's like hashtag MAC Cosmetics, hashtag Smashbox Squad, whatever it may be. Use their brand specific hashtags, tag them in photos where you're using their makeup, and hopefully you'll kind of catch their eye that way. That, in my opinion, is the best way to get on their PR. Some people do choose to reach out directly to the brand and ask to be put on a PR list, but I just feel like your chances are usually better if they just find you organically. So that's kind of just a quick gloss over about PR and PR packages that are sent out. If you guys have any other questions about strictly just being sent product for free, ask me in the comments below. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is brand trips. So as you guys know, I was just on a brand trip with Urban Decay, and I just think there's a lot of speculation around brand trips. Why do brands do them? What kind of benefit does it have for the consumer, for the brand, for the influencer? Are they paid? All these kinds of things. So first and foremost, there's absolutely no way to tell whether or not a brand trip is paid or not. The Urban Decay one, for instance, was a paid trip, as we were doing a lot of work while we were there. We were doing a lot of videos and photographs that they're going to be using for traditional advertising like billboards and through their social channels and all that kind of stuff. With that particular trip, there was no social promotion required, so we didn't have to post to our Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter if we didn't want to. It was more so just pay in exchange for the work that we were doing. However, when I went on the Tar trip with Bora Bora, we didn't get paid to go, but we did have a required amount of social posting. So this just means that you had to post a certain number of times using brand-specific hashtags, but you weren't paid to be there, so it wasn't necessarily like a sponsorship, so to speak. A lot of people were asking if all expenses are paid on these trips, and typically, yes, you would normally have your flight, hotel, and any kind of transportation, as well as your food for the day covered. And sometimes you would also have an additional +1 brought for free. Sometimes not. Sometimes you have to pay for your +1 to come. Someone asked, how are sponsored trips more effective than traditional marketing campaign? So a lot of people get kind of up in arms about sponsored trips because they feel like it's a huge waste of money. The fact of the matter is, these trips have always gone on. They were traditionally done with beauty editors. So instead of bringing influencers, they would normally bring beauty editors from either a magazine or some other kind of publication. These trips were not publicized. They were strictly to build a relationship with various publications. They would typically be doing this in the hopes that these publications would be more likely to feature their products throughout the year in editorials and all that kind of stuff. So in my opinion, obviously I'm biased, I feel like it's a good thing that these trips have been switched over to be more about influencers as opposed to beauty editors, because you get to see these affiliations taking place. So if you're less likely to buy a product based off the fact that you know a beauty guru has a sponsorship or affiliation with a brand, then it's great that you get to be able to see this relationship forming through the means of a brand trip. These brand trips are effective marketing because they are almost always significantly cheaper than paying these influencers directly to post the amount of times that they're typically required to post while they're on a brand trip. And even if there's no social promotion like the Urban Decay one that I just went on, typically people are going to be Snapchatting, posting to Instagram, posting to Twitter about what they're doing anyway. The thing that's great about this is it's kind of an underhanded way to have people talking about things as opposed to doing a direct sponsorship, so paying them directly to put their product in a video. As much as people don't like brand trips sometimes, they like sponsored content even less. Again, if you guys have any other questions about brand trips specifically, go ahead and leave them in the comments. Now I'm going to be talking a little bit about sponsorships, codes, all that stuff. Just basically various ways that people can make money through being an influencer. So obviously one of the ways in which people make money is through sponsorships. So this is when a brand would reach out to you, or perhaps you would reach out to the brand and you guys would decide that you were going to do some kind of sponsored content, whether it was Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, whatever it may be. You guys have decided you're going to talk about a specific product or a specific brand, and you guys would figure out the details of that together. So in some cases, the brand may be reaching out to you, they might have a specific product they want you to use, or they might ask you to choose a range of products from their brand to use on whatever platform you guys have decided on. So with this, you would typically have a contract in place and you would send your content through for approval by the brand a little bit before you post it. The brand would usually have some kind of stipulations about what they want the photo or video to look like, what they want you to say, how long the product has to be featured for. For instance, the brand might want you to hold the product in the photo for Instagram. They might want some kind of visual representation of the product in a video for a specific length of time. They might want you to speak to certain aspects of the product, maybe that it's long wearing or that it's super creamy or whatever it may be. And you guys can negotiate all of that as well. Some brands will send through straight up talking points that they want you to hit, and you can say yes or no to whatever you want. Then when you send the content through for approval, they can suggest edits, they can ask you to change certain things, maybe about the caption, maybe they want you to edit something out of a video, and you guys can negotiate from there. You can decline or say yes to it, and it goes from there. Then the content is posted, and typically you would get paid within 30 days of that content being posted. There's no way to know how much people make off of all this. It's completely based on the influencer, their management, their agencies, the brand budget, the type of collaboration that they're doing. Obviously, a video would typically make more than an Instagram post. So if you're wondering about how much people are making, you will never know for sure. Then there are things like promo codes, discount codes, all that kind of stuff. So there's two different kinds of codes. There's tracking codes and then there's discount codes. Tracking codes don't offer the consumer any kind of discount, but it basically just tracks how much traffic people are sending to this product. Discount codes obviously have tracking on them as well, but it would also offer money off to the consumer. People usually do a mixture of sponsorships and codes, but the thing about codes is they're a lot more easily slipped in in general content than a sponsorship is. Codes you could mention on several different platforms daily, and people wouldn't be as annoyed or skeptical about that as they would be if somebody was doing that many sponsorships every day on different platforms. I've heard some influencers recently talking about the fact that people are foolish if they don't understand that they're making money off these codes, but the reality is that it is a more underhanded way, in my opinion, of making money, because you're not disclosing every time that you are making money off something. It makes you more likely to recommend a product, in my opinion, because you are benefiting from it. I truly believe that people wouldn't be promoting brands as heavily as they are if they didn't have codes attached to them. And I think you guys can see that through the fact that a lot of these people have affiliations with various brands, but they seem to very heavily promote specific brands that they do have codes with. But no way is necessarily better than the other of making money. It's just up to the influencer, what they feel most comfortable with, what they feel like is most beneficial for them, and sometimes their followers. People also make money through brand trips, as we talked about, meet and greets, appearances at events. But for the most part, sponsorships and codes are the two really, really big things that are going to be pulling in money. I know that a lot of people try to look up AdSense earnings, but AdSense is honestly such a small portion of what people make being an influencer, so it's so not something to worry about. So the next thing that I want to talk to you guys about is disclosure. This will probably be the bulk of the video. Doing some whistleblowing on this lately, so to speak. As you guys know, I hope, I disclose all my sponsorships. So anything that I have been paid to do, I will absolutely 100% of the time disclose to you. I disclose this in the beginning of videos by saying that this is a sponsored video, and I disclose it on Snapchat, Twitter, or Instagram by including #ad. I try to remind myself all the time to tell you guys whether or not I was sent a product when I'm using it for free. When it comes to brand trips, like the one that I just went on with Urban Decay, where I'm not paid to be putting up content, I usually wouldn't label that as an ad because I'm not paid to be putting up that content. That content is going up at my discretion because I'm choosing to, not because I'm being persuaded to by the brand. Therefore, I wouldn't put an ad after it because I wasn't paid for it. Disclosure is something that I feel really strongly about because it's the law, but also because I think it leads to a lot of aggression towards the people that are properly disclosing, which is unfortunate. I think that a lot of people are under the impression that if they aren't seeing disclosed ads, that means that that person must not be doing ads. I can say to you guys with a very high level of confidence, if you're following someone that has hundreds of thousands or over millions of followers, they are almost absolutely doing ads, whether or not they are disclosed. I know this because I'm being offered a lot of the same advertisements, and I know the requirements for all these advertisements, and I just see them being posted by people without disclosure. A lot of you guys have been asking me what to look for when it comes to posts that aren't disclosed, and again, I really can't give you a definitive answer that's like 100% positive that this post is disclosed or isn't disclosed. But some of the things that you guys can look out for is the usage of brand exclusive hashtags, and especially so if that brand exclusive hashtag is used with a brand exclusive post. And what I mean by that is that, let's say somebody was talking about the makeup that they were wearing today, if they only tagged one product or one brand, and that was coupled with a brand exclusive hashtag, that's usually a pretty good indication that that may be a sponsored post, or at the very least a post that you should perhaps be wary of. That said, sometimes people are just genuinely posting about a product and it just happens to follow those exact guidelines. Somebody asked me on Twitter if brands will hint towards the fact that they don't want you to disclose something. Typically, no, brands won't really do this. I've only had it happen a few times personally. That said, there are brands that choose to disclose in a way that, in my opinion, I don't think is appropriate. I had a discussion recently with a cosmetics brand that felt like a brand exclusive hashtag was enough of a disclosure, and they didn't need to include #ad, #sponsored, anything like that on their sponsored content. Their reasoning for this was that they didn't want to make the people that they were working with uncomfortable by telling them that they have to disclose with #ad or #sponsored. They said that their legal team found that this was appropriate and that they felt that this was the most responsible approach to disclosure. My issue with that mentality is that, in my opinion, the consumer will have a hard time differentiating between somebody who's using a brand-specific hashtag for exposure, hoping that the brand will see them and maybe put them on their PR list or repost them, versus somebody who's using a brand-specific hashtag for disclosure, which means that they're getting paid for that content. So I could say to you to look out for brand-specific hashtags, but I wouldn't want you to then go onto somebody's smaller page that's just looking for exposure to that brand and have them get ripped to shreds for doing something that you now think is an ad. I think that influencers are quick to defend the fact that we should be getting paid for our jobs, which is true, but by not disclosing, you're kind of lending to the mentality that for some reason there's something wrong with the fact that we are getting paid. This also leads people to be more skeptical towards the fact that if we're being paid to talk about a product and we're not disclosing it, that we probably aren't being as honest about something. I just think overall, if more people were to disclose, it would become less of a taboo thing. People would be less up in arms about it because it would become more normalized. And just a quick note to you guys as subscribers and consumers, I think it's really important for you guys not to attack people that are doing sponsored content, because I can guarantee you that the sponsored content is there either way. There's just one person disclosing it and one person not. Now I'm just going to answer some general questions that you guys asked me on Twitter that I don't feel like fit into any of those little slots. Somebody asked if we have to pay taxes as an influencer. Yes, you absolutely have to pay your taxes. It's just a little bit more of a process because you would have to submit all of your separate pay stubs from the various companies that you work with. And as well, many of us write off things like makeup and travel expenses and all that kind of stuff because it is something that we use for our jobs. Typically, you would be writing off your taxes as somebody that is self-employed. Somebody asked if every single person on like a trip or whatever would be getting paid the same amount. Does everyone get paid the same amount for sponsored videos? Your rate is completely decided by you when it comes to sponsorships. It's up to you, it's up to whoever manages you, if you manage yourself, whatever it may be. It's not like we all came to some agreement that once you reach this number of followers, this is how much you charge. It's completely up to whatever that person decides. And in terms of how people are being treated on brand trips, there's no way to know. There might be people making money and other people not making money. There might be people making more money and you making less. There might be people that get a +1 and other people don't get offered a +1. It's completely dependent on the brand. It's completely dependent upon the trip and the campaign and all that kind of stuff. Someone asked, do you have to pay for things and get reimbursed, or does the brand do everything for you? Again, completely dependent upon the brand. Some brands choose for you to pay for things up front yourself and then they'll reimburse you. For instance, if you're going to be taking your own cab to the airport or buying your own lunch or whatever, versus some brands will, set up a car service for you and have planned lunches, dinners, all that. Somebody asked the usual requirements in contract, what influencers are allowed to do, not do, how more strict rules are executed by YouTubers. Every single contract is different, every single brand is different, every single influencer is different. I can't stress that enough. So my interaction with a brand might be completely different from some other influencers' interaction with a brand, and working with L'Oreal can be completely different from working with MAC, for instance. A lot of these contracts are really straightforward. It basically just says, we want you to use this product, we want you to have the content to us by this date. In terms of how you navigate these rules, every single influencer has things that they're comfortable with and things that they're not comfortable with. For instance, if a brand told me that I couldn't speak to any negatives about the product, I'd probably feel pretty uncomfortable with that, and I generally wouldn't accept the sponsorship. Other people might not care about that, but they might care about the fact that they can't swear in a video. Somebody asked if there's non-compete between companies. Brands generally know that this would be a completely inappropriate thing to request of an influencer. Every once in a while, if a brand is asking you to work on a larger campaign, for instance, maybe you were the face of a product, maybe it was a collaboration with a product, they might ask you to not speak about other brands or be the face of another brand for a certain duration of time, and this would be considered a blackout period. But if you are just getting PR sent to you, going on a brand trip, general things like that, a brand would usually never ask you to sign any kind of non-compete. As I've told you guys many times before, the best thing that you can do is be an informed consumer. Currently, there's a lot of people that just aren't very upfront and they don't disclose. And trust me, I've been there. I have ads up that aren't disclosed from the past. I've done it before. But sponsorships are becoming more and more common, codes are becoming more and more common, brand trips are becoming more and more common. So just make sure that you guys are taking everything with a grain of salt and that you guys are doing your own research on your off time. If you're unsure about whether or not somebody that you follow, that you love, is doing sponsored content, just assume that everything is sponsored. It's so much easier than being taken for a ride. If there's a product that you're wanting to buy because an influencer that you follow has been talking about it, just make sure to look up additional reviews from other people, normal people, Sephora reviews, all that kind of stuff. So that's everything for me today, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something cool today. Let me know what you'd like to see next in the comments below. I'll get back to you. Peace out.